Today, we're going to do Brunch with Bernie today. And Senator Bernie Sanders is with us from the Senate office building, I believe it is, the Senate studios. Hey, Bernie.
Good to be with you, Tom.
Great to have you here. So what's on your mind right now? What do you see happening in America that's worthy of comment?
Well, anybody who is on Capitol Hill today understands that the issue of the moment and the issue of the moment for the next few months is going to be the budget. Our Republican friends in the House have developed a draconian budget which slashes many programs that are desperately needed by low and moderate income Americans, by young people, by old people. Tom, their plan for the future is really to bring us back to where we were in the 1920s, and nobody should misunderstand that. What they want to do is ultimately privatize Social Security, privatize Medicare, make substantial cuts in Medicaid, lessen the protection that working people have in terms of unemployment compensation, safety on the job, cut back on programs that our kids need, despite the fact that we have the highest rate of childhood poverty in the industrialized world. That is their agenda. The president's budget obviously was nowhere near as bad as that budget, as the Republican budget was, but it has many problems, not the least of which it cuts what's called the LIHEAP program, low-income heating assistance, which is terribly important for millions of Americans who are trying to stay warm in a very cold winter. It cuts back on the Community Development Block Grant Program, affordable housing, and many other programs that cities and towns utilize that money for. It makes a 50% cut in the Community Services program, which is the infrastructure by which services are gotten out to the lowest income people, emergency food programs, emergency housing programs in Vermont and all over this country. The issue, in my view, that we have got to focus on is A, how did we get into this very serious deficit problem? And B, why aren't we looking at revenue? And the reality is that the wealthiest people in this country are becoming much wealthier, while their tax rates have gone down very substantially. And that if we are serious about moving toward a balanced budget, which I think we should, the way to go is to take a hard look at the tax rates for the very wealthy, take a hard look at a number of provisions which allow corporations to avoid paying anywhere near their fair share of taxes. Just this year alone, we're going to be losing about $100 billion in revenue because corporations and wealthy individuals are stashing their money in tax havens in the Cayman Islands and Bermuda. Just last year, ExxonMobil, the most profitable corporation in America, paid no federal income taxes after earning, in 2009, $19 billion in profits because of all kinds of loopholes. And on it goes. So if we are serious about coming up with a budget that is fair, you don't slash programs in the middle of a recession that cut jobs and that hurt the most vulnerable people in our society. What you do say is, when we have growing income inequality and the people on top have seen a significant reduction in their tax burden, we've got to ask them and large corporations to pay their fair share. So, Tom, that is a major struggle that is going to be taking place right here on Capitol Hill, and I hope the American people get engaged in that.
Bernie, given the separation between the president's budget, which I'm frankly rather lukewarm about, but there's some good stuff in it, and the Republican budget, which is pure slash and burn, do you think it's possible that there will be no resolution and that what we will see is 2 years of government by continuing resolution? In other words, simply maintaining the status quo from year to year until the presidential election?
Well, Tom, I don't know the answer to that, and I'm not into speculation. And I have to say, a lot of that will have to do as to how the American people respond. You're hearing right now in Wisconsin, a whole lot of working people are standing up and saying enough is enough.
Yep.
We're not going to accept the slashing of wages, cuts in benefits, and so forth. And if the American people do that as well, we can begin to put the Republicans on the defensive. But right now, what we are seeing is a very strong, well-funded attack on the part of the Republican Party to try to bring us back to where we were in the 1920s. For example, as I hope all of our listeners know, Tom, Social Security has not contributed one nickel to our deficit. In fact, Social Security today has a $2.6 trillion surplus, can pay out every benefit owed to every eligible American for the next 27 years. And yet, many of our Republican friends are saying, oh, we have a deficit crisis. We've got to cut Social Security benefits. Maybe we have to privatize Social Security. So what you are seeing is Republicans bringing out all of the ideas they have had for decades on cutting back on the needs of working people, more tax breaks for the wealthiest people, more unfettered free trade. For example, stuck in the president's budget is the recommendation that we pass the Korean trade agreement. Well, my view is that virtually every trade agreement this country has passed in the last several decades has been a disaster for American workers. Today we have a huge trade deficit. In the last 10 years, over 50,000 factories in America have been shut down. Much of that has to do with absurd trade policies that allow corporations to go to China and other low-wage countries. I do not want to extend those trade policies. So where we are right now is with a very right-wing and aggressive Republican agenda, and we have a president who has not stood up strongly enough for the American worker. And our job now is to put pressure on the White House to stand tall on Social Security, to demand that the wealthy pay their fair share of taxes, not to go along with trade policies which continue to cost us good-paying jobs. So we've got a lot on the plate right now.
And to call the White House comment line at 202-456-1111, my suggestion, and let them know that we would like to see the president stand with the workers in Wisconsin. There's a major battle going on there.
It's a battle that I think is symbolic, to be honest with you, about what can and will be happening all over this country.
Yeah, the state of, by the way, we just found today, that state is actually, their budget is in surplus. It's not in deficit like their governor is.
What we are going to be seeing, Tom, and we should not kid ourselves, is when the Republicans talk about reforming Medicaid, what they really mean is throwing millions of people off of Medicaid. And what will happen to people when they can't go to a doctor? Well, right now we got 45,000 Americans who die every year because they don't get to a doctor. That number will surely go up. And when you talk about privatizing or providing vouchers for Medicare, you tell me, Tom, if you're 75 years of age and you're earning $14,000 a year, which many seniors are, how many insurance companies are going to provide you affordable insurance in order to take care of you when you're very sick?
Zero.
Not very many at all.
Yeah. But Medicare does.
Yes, it does.